Well, yesterday, big party, big celebration down there in Jeff City. Mike Kehoe getting sworn in as the next governor of Missouri. All the statewides did as well, but let's be honest, the focus was on the governor. Then they had their big ball last night. So the Speaker of the House is now Jon Patterson. They got to business last week down there in Jeff City, and he is a Lee Summit guy. So Speaker of the House right in our backyard here in Kansas City. He now joins us on KCMO. Mr. Speaker, good morning. Thanks for being here. And how do you feel with Governor Kehoe in the mix? He's getting to work. And what are some of the big things that you want to get done right out of the gates?
Hi, Pete. Great to be with you. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, yesterday was a very special day. It was a cold day, but it was great to see our new governor inaugurated. He did a great job. He had a great message for people out in Missouri, and he was ready to get to work, and I'm ready to help.
Well, talk me through where you're at right now, and obviously the biggest question that people are wondering around here is whether or not the Chiefs and the Royals can ultimately stay in the state of Missouri. What role do you see the state potentially playing in either or both of those teams and their futures in the state of Missouri?
Well, I think the governor and I and the Senate president have made very clear to everybody in both teams that we want them to stay in Missouri, and we're going to do what it takes to keep them here. The role that I see the state is playing is more of as a closer. I think the city and the county need to get a plan and really take care of the lion's share of the work. And then if there's something that the state can come and do to close, I think that's our role. But I think initially it has to be city and county.
Have you worked with the city and county on trying to help keep these teams here?
Yeah, I think we're in constant talks, and there just seems to be, it's very difficult when you're trying to deal with two teams. I don't know any other city that's had to do this with two teams, and that they have to move side by side and they're connected to each other. I think that's been the difficulty. But I know our city leadership, our county leadership, they're constantly trying to come up with a plan, and it's just finding one that we think works and then moving forward.
Here was a quote this morning we had on Speaker of the House, Dan Hawkins, on the Kansas side, and he said on KCMO, I think one of the teams will probably come to Kansas, possibly both, but I wouldn't bet on it. The state of Missouri is working hard to try to keep them. How would you respond to the Kansas Speaker of the House on the other side of the state line?
Well, I know Speaker Hawkins, and he's a great guy and enjoy spending time with him, but I think he's wrong on that. I think Missouri is going to be able to keep both teams, and we are going to work hard to do that.
But you say that with some confidence, but it sounds to me like you're basically saying, hey, it's going to be up to the county and the teams and the cities to strike a deal, and maybe we're the icing on the cake, but you don't even know what the icing on the cake, what flavor the icing on the cake is going to be. So how are you confident in saying that?
Well, I think you're right. But I think the thing that Missouri has going for it is that I think the teams do want to stay in Missouri. So I think the energy is there for that, for the teams to remain here. I think we have some ideas of what the state can do and the amounts, but again, we need the city and the county to kind of play their hand first and then see what we can do. Doing anything in the state for sports teams is difficult just because it's the whole state. And, people feel differently about the sports teams in different parts of the state.
Well, I was going to go there next. Do you feel like there is pushback on the St. Louis side from potentially helping sports teams on the Kansas City side? Is that something that you believe you'll encounter on the statewide level?
I do. Yeah. I think if you talk with members from different parts of the state, if you get down to southeast Missouri, there are Chiefs fans and there are Royals fans, but, you're closer to Memphis when you're down there. So the allegiances and the love that we have for the Chiefs and Royals, it just isn't the same as it is in Kansas City, perhaps. So when you're dealing with the whole state, it just gets much harder.
Jon Patterson is here. He is the new Speaker of the House in Missouri on KCMO 95.7 FM. We're always streaming on the KCMO Talk Radio app, of course, as we take you up till the top of the hour. So what about just the other big things that you think will get done with Governor Kehoe? There's talks around potentially further tax cuts in Missouri. Where do you think is a realistic goal for the state when it comes to further cutting taxes?
Well, I think we in Jeff City should always be looking at cutting taxes for everyday Missourians. So I was glad to hear Governor Kehoe say that. I think one of the things that we've talked about is cutting Missourians' income taxes. So we're constantly looking at ways that we can lower taxes. And, there are states around us that have zero income tax. Also, another thing that I think that we could do is maybe cut the capital gains. When people are older and they want to retire, we want to make sure that they stay here. And one of the things that kind of makes places like Florida and Texas attractive is capital gains. So those kind of things we want to look at, and we want to be responsible with the budget and our dollars, but we will always look to cut everyday Missourians' taxes.
What's one big thing that we're not talking about that if you, Jon Patterson, had your druthers would hopefully get done this legislative session?
One thing I don't think people are talking about, I'll give you one, is, building homes in Kansas City. There's a lot of regulations. There's a lot of green regulations that I don't think pay dividends to the customer. And so one of the things I'd like to do is make it so that there's less regulations on home building, get some more homes built so that the property taxes that we have, we can spread it out amongst more people. That would be one of the best things we could do to lower property taxes and stabilize property taxes.
What about sports gambling, which, of course, the voters passed this past election? How long do you anticipate it taking for people on the Missouri side to be placing sports bets?
Well, I think I've heard maybe this summer or later, but I think what we need to do is make sure we have all the safeguards in place. I don't think, we haven't had sports betting for a long time. I don't think we should rush into it and do it without making sure that we have all the safeguards in place for gambling addiction and those kind of things.
So is that something that you guys have to handle at the legislative end, or is that some other
No, I think
department?
That's more on the regulatory side. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it's nothing you guys have to pass. It's just having the
No.
Okay. So this is more just who would be in charge of that?
I think lottery or gaming or
Okay.
but not legislative.
So once they get their rules and all that stuff in order, then you think by the summertime is what we'd be looking at on that front?
Possibly.
Okay.
Possibly, but I don't want to rush it.
Yeah, that's fine. I understand. We're not going to hold you to that. That's not your lane anyway, so it's all good. Speaker of the House, Jon Patterson on KCMO. Thank you for being here, and we'll be in touch.
All right. Thanks, Pete. Thanks for having me.
You bet. There you go. Jon Patterson, Missouri Speaker of the House right here in Lee's Summit on KCMO Talk Radio.